Welcome to another episode of The Breakdown. I am so excited for tonight's conversation. I have been talking to people uh, a lot over the last couple of weeks about the Alberta politics realm, and the most striking thing to me, other than the dystopian hellscape that our political conversation has turned into, is man, the youth are showing up. And this is unprecedented. In 7 years of doing the breakdown, I don't think I've seen so many young Albertans saying, whoa, 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 this is not cool. We're not going to just stand by and do nothing. I'm very excited to welcome another group, another one group of Alberta students who are they're next leveling this, because not only are they using their voices, they're creating a whole new association to make sure that when they use their voices, those voices are heard. I'm very excited to welcome from the fledgling Alberta Students Association, the president of the Alberta Students Association, Katie. I hope I said it fast enough. And who is the president of the Alberta Students Association, and Kai, who is the vice president. Thank you both so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having us.
To start with, before we get into the horrible things that we have to talk about, if both of you wouldn't mind, as much as you're comfortable, just giving a little bit of introduction as to who you are, and then I'm going to ask you to also sort of explain the backstory of the association. But let's start with who you are first. And Katie, you're the president, so you get to go first.
Perfect. Okay. So, as was said, my name is Katie Chilton. I am a grade 11 student at a small school just outside of Edmonton. I've always been really involved in both politics and just advocacy because those are things that matter a lot to me. I'm both Ukrainian and Indigenous, and we see different issues in both groups of those people. So it's always been important to me to stick up for those, especially when people aren't able to stick up for themselves. So I'm really grateful to be here, and I'm really glad that I get this platform.
Awesome. Kai, your turn.
My name is Cairo Taya. I'm a student at a school along with Katie. I've been really involved with politics lately, and I'm also a part of another group for LGBTQ advocacy.
And the Alberta Students Association. So, I mean, Kai, you said that you've been. I love the little tag lately at the end, because the reality is the stakes for Alberta students and Alberta's youth have. I can't remember a time when they were quite as high as they are now. So, what have you and whichever one wants to go first? How did the Alberta Students Association get to be a thing?
I'd love to answer if that's okay with you, Kai. So it really started on Instagram. We saw just a lot of individual student groups across Alberta wanting to create walkouts or just wondering how they can show support for their teachers after it was announced that they were being forced back to school. Um, but we found that people didn't really have access to the same resources or like the same structure and support. So through that, we met a bunch of wonderful, amazing people from across Alberta, and we decided to create a provincial network. So the ASA has just become a place where students can share their ideas, help share governance ideas, advocate together, and just build some consistency across all of the schools and help other students.
Anything you want to add to that, there, Kai?
Pretty much, yeah. We all met through the talks about the strike, and we were starting to collaborate with each other to organize a province-wide walkout, which actually turned out really successful. We just want to send a clear message to the Alberta government that it's affecting us too.
And I want to be clear, because we talked about this in the pre-interview a little bit. Um, One of the things that, like, this is not just a flash in the pan thing for you guys. You're actually setting up an association. So this isn't just like oh, let's do it on a Tuesday and we'll put a name on an Instagram account. You're following through with all the structure and the governance stuff, correct?
Yes.
How easy is that?
It's been hard, but it's been so rewarding. We've I've learned so much myself, even in the role of the president. Every day I'm learning new things about how associations are set up and how we have to file bylaws. And we've had some really incredible people wanting to help because we are a group of just students. We're all completely student run, student led. And so we have needed some help. We've had parents and some MLAs and just people from across the province who want to help because they know that student advocacy is so important. But it's definitely been a challenge and a hurdle that we're still working on getting over. But we know that it's going to be so worth it once we finish setting up all the legal stuff.
I gotta challenge you on one thing you said there. Um, I would not, especially in this day and age, ever put the word just in front of students. Because students across the province have proven to be a force of nature. So don't say just students. Don't diminish like that. Um, when when did the first sort of, I mean, you talked about having a history of advocacy. When did it first kind of cross your radar to, oh, I've been doing advocacy for marginalized groups, and it turns out that maybe one of those marginalized groups by nature of charter warfare is going to be my teachers. When did that sort of first, tell me about how that realization happened for you?
Kai, do you want to go?
Basically, we started talking more and more in the classroom about the charter and the Constitution, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is like really going against it." And so I organized a school rally, just my school, and that was like a week or two before the Bill 2 happened. And that's basically how I met Katie. And it never crossed my mind that one day I would actually be sticking up for my own teachers because of a thing like this.
Katie, what do
It's
you got?
been very similar situation for me. I had a teacher at first semester last year, so it was probably around November of last year, which it's been like a full year now since I've been aware of these issues. I had a teacher who is just such a lovely person in general, but she wanted us to know what was going on with the teachers. And so she kind of told us about the Red for Ed movement. And then since then, it's obviously become something that we see in the media. And I'm super fortunate that I have access to be able to stay informed. But there are people who aren't as informed. So even just teachers bringing it up once in a while in class has been something that's really helped students. But yeah, it started so much smaller than we expected, and it's become like such an amazing thing. I never would have expected that we wouldn't be able to stand up for our teacher, or the teachers wouldn't be able to stand up for themselves, so we would have to. But I can wholeheartedly say that I'm glad that someone is doing it for them.
Yeah. Without giving away any locations, um, what have both of your been experiences, and whoever wants to swing at this one first can. The one of the big sticking points that the teachers articulated was the reason for them not accepting the contract had to do with classroom sizes, classroom complexity. Um, Daniel Smith has announced a committee um, with controlling, if not entire votes for decisions that the committee makes under her control. So that's super cool. But what are your experiences with the sort of the realms of the classroom complexity and the classroom sizes? Are those problems that you guys are seeing in your day to day?
I can definitely say that I've seen even since I was little. Like I remember when I was younger, like in grade four or something, I would reach 30 kids in a classroom and I would be like, my classroom's so full, how are the teachers supposed to help? And now it's like I've doubled that amount of education now. I'm in grade 10. Um, I'm in grade 11. Oh my goodness. But I just like I have classes that are reaching 40. I know people whose classes are reaching like high 40s, 50, and it's just become something that you can't ignore. And we know that the government is trying to like create committees that will help that, but we're just not seeing anything that's being actually like put out to help us yet. And it's kind of an issue that has to be treated immediately because students feel like they're not learning properly anymore.
Okay. Kai, how is your classroom sizes and complexity?
My classrooms have not been as small as they were when I was back in like grade one. They've started reaching like the high 30s, almost 40s. And I know some people whose class sizes are like almost at the 60.
Is that with one teacher or two? I mean, it still sucks either way, but just for clarification.
No, I did like a little survey on the Instagram account and someone said their highest was 68.
Wow. I hope that's with at least two teachers. I mean, because those are Hunger Games odds for that poor teacher at that point. Um, So you guys have is it fair to say, and please, if it in any way feels like I'm putting words in your mouth, say nope, that's not how I feel. But is it fair to say that you guys have both had to deal with the realities of classroom, certainly sizes based on what you've said, but the complexity piece is something that's come up a lot in conversation as well, whether we're talking about the increased awareness around neurodiversity, the integration of varying degrees of disabled kids, and certainly new Canadians as well, who are maybe dealing with trauma. Are you guys seeing that in your classrooms too?
We definitely see it. I have a dynamic disability, so I have different needs that I need in the classroom, and often uh, to no fault of anyone at the school at all, I my needs are not able to be met because unfortunately it's just something you have to prioritize. When there's 40 kids in your class, who do you have like who gets priority over like their specific needs? So it's definitely something that has become hard for both students who have complex needs like myself and students that don't, because it's also just a safety concern. Even if every student was neurotypical and was fully able-bodied, how does a teacher look after and keep 40 students safe? The ratio doesn't make sense at all. So it's definitely something we see, yes.
Kai, what about you?
Not me, but some of my friends do have IPPs and they've like told their teachers that they have it and the teachers have looked through it, but they're just not able to upkeep the IPPs. And I think that is just really bad, especially with how many people there are in just one room that they're not able to keep up with everyone.
And can I highlight something here, Katie? Because something, as you were speaking, something really struck me. There are people who uh, marginalize neurodiverse individuals or people who are dealing with disabilities, and you've just self-identified as somebody who does have some disabilities, and you're also the president of this organization. So for anybody who's like, "Oh, disabled kids can't do the things," I mean, I don't want to throw my two middle fingers up right now, but I feel like there's a metaphorical expression where
Yeah.
you'd
Or
certainly be justified in doing that.
there's definitely like a large community at ASA of students with dynamic disabilities or who come from different heritages, who have different first languages. And so it's definitely something that just proves like you can use your voice no matter what. And it's been something even powerful for like on my behalf, the fact that people like I was voted in as president. It's been something even for my personal journey as someone with a disability. It's been really like eye opening. Like it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
That's awesome. Let's talk about Bill 2. So, as I'll do a story so far. The teachers went on strike. They were off work for roughly 3 weeks, unpaid. During that period, the province did import some delightful American study models that some people could avail themselves of if they had internet access that was reliable. Um, and then we had the legislature come back into session, and Daniel Smith and the UCP introduced Bill 2, which was the bill that forced teachers not just back to work, but tied their hands in regards to how they could advocate going forward. Because for anybody who has not been following the show for the last ever, it also invokes Section 33 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is colloquially referred to as the Notwithstanding Clause. Notwithstanding Clause exists to say, hey, those are some really charter rights that you have, really nice charter rights that you have there, but they're super inconvenient for us right now. So we're just going to take them away. We're going to set them aside for a period of 5 years. This was not the only tool that the UCP had available in their toolbox. There were other steps that they absolutely could have taken, but it would have been work, apparently, to listen. And they didn't want to do that without invoking the notwithstanding clause. So I guess when you're trying to listen to teachers silencing them is a really good first step. But what was your like to each of you, and I'll go to Kai first this time, so you have time to unmute. What was your immediate reaction when I mean, there was a lot of rumblings that the Daniel Smith and the UCP were going to use the notwithstanding clause, and then they did. What was the first time that you were like, wait, they could do what? And they're going to do what?
I first started realizing that when I started learning more about Bills 26, 27, and 29, when they were going to invoke the notwithstanding clause. And I was like, okay. And when we were talking about it in class, my teacher was just like, yeah, it's only supposed to be used for like emergencies and stuff. And obviously, none of these were emergencies, which is just really not that great.
Katie, what do you got to add there? When did you first realize like, oh, they've got their finger on the button?
I didn't even like I knew about it and I was learning so much during the strike about how the legislature works, and it kind of showed me um, that there are some things that they keep away from the youth because of these reasons. But so many of us know so much more now. But I didn't even think that it would actually happen until that night. I remember there was a group of us from ASA. We were watching the live stream in the legislature. We were up until like 2 a.m. when the final decision was made. And it didn't really like register with me until probably 11 o'clock at night when they started like moving forwards, and like you could tell they were trying to push it aside. And I was like, they're actually going to do this. They're going to take away the teacher's right to strike, and not only to strike, but to speak up about the students in their classrooms and the conditions of those classrooms. So I didn't notice or like really register it until the day that it happened.
And this is not the only area. You brought it up, Kai, so I'm going to go there. This is not the only area that the current government has said that they are going to invoke the notwithstanding clause. You referred to bills 26, 27, 29. Those are to do the shorthand version. Those are the bills that not only require the opt-in for sexual education for youth, they also require the parental notification if youth want to use different pronouns or names. They are also the sports bills, as well as the bill that eliminates, in effect, medical care for gender diverse youth, which. And I feel like this is important to highlight because by the time that this goes to air, they'll probably have done it. But there's this one of those cases, particularly the one about gender affirming care. One of those is before the courts currently. A judge has issued an injunction saying that if these measures were enacted right now, it would cause irreparable harm to youth. And so the ability for the government to say you're not allowed to provide these things anymore has been, in effect, put on hold for the time being. And there is action before the court right now. So if worst comes to worst, which it probably will because we live in Alberta, um, and the provincial government does decide to put forward a bill this week, invoking Section 33 for those pieces as well, um, that will be superseding a court action that is going on, and it will be superseding a judge's determination that these policies will cause real and irreversible harm to gender diverse youth. I'm going to go to you again first, Kai, because you said that you've been involved in advocacy groups for LGBTQ2S plus youth. Um, what's your reaction to that? What are your thoughts on that? And if I said anything in there that you disagree with or whatever, feel free to be like, well, Nate, I think you kind of got that wrong.
Yeah, so obviously these bills aren't good, because not only does it basically out you to parents, it could cause danger to you if you are outed to your parents. But with the gender affirming care, it's not like people are like, they're just puberty blockers. There's like no actual surgeries going on at such a young stage and age that obviously if they're gonna stop taking those puberty blockers and such, it'll cause health damages too.
And I think that's an important point that you bring because when we talk about, this is one of the things that has been grossly misrepresented by the bigots on the social medias and occasionally the Premier of Alberta. Puberty blockers do not cause irreversible change. They press pause on puberty, and there's plenty of medical experts who have stepped up and said that once the puberty blockers are not being taken anymore, puberty can restart unless it's dealt with something like hormone replacement therapy that happens at a later age. In regards to the surgeries piece, there are no bottom surgeries done in Alberta, period, end of sentence. And the last years that we have data for in Alberta, there were 8 top surgeries done on youth, and the specific reasons for why are opaque. So whether or not it was part of treating somebody who was dealing with gender dysphoria, or whether or not it was dealing with somebody like a boy who has gynecomastia, if you guys know what that is. If you don't, you can Google it. Uh, we don't know which was what in there. So it's we're talking about a percent of a percent of a percent of the population that this stuff affects. Um, and you're absolutely right. Katie, what do you want? Anything you want to throw into the mix there? Because you were kind of leaning in.
Yeah, I definitely want to just add to more of a emotional aspect of it. Every times, every time a law targets trans youth, it feels like the government is just trying to say that we don't deserve to exist. And youth specifically are still figuring out who they are. And these laws make us scared to even try. School is generally supposed to be a safe place, but it's hard to feel safe when we know that the adults, like the teachers and the counselors, are now obligated to out us to our families and to follow those legislations that are trying to erase us. Students shouldn't have to choose between their safety and using the bathroom at school. And when politicians say harmful things about trans youth, kids at school repeat them, and that makes bullying worse as well. It kind of really puts into perspective for all to us LGBTQ youth the priorities of our government right now, and they're not with keeping us safe. Because if they were, then they wouldn't be doing things that are actively hurting us.
I think I just found the clip for this episode. That was very powerful. Um, yeah. Um, one of the things, one of the reasons, to my understanding, is for you guys putting together the Alberta Students Association, is to give students a place to use their voices. And I mean, you both talked about the fact that it came out of is that everybody's using Instagram now? Am I like old because I hang out on Twitter?
Yeah, Twitter's kind of an issue.
It has gone downhill, for sure. But it's yeah, I've been struck by like the Instagram these days. Seems to be where everybody's hanging out. It's kind of cool. I have so much to learn about it because I am old. But you guys talked about how this was a this kind of sprang out of networking across Instagram. What what do you want people to know, especially youth? And it blows my mind on so many levels that there are youth who watch this program. I can't even tell you. But what do you want other students to know about what they can do um, to help push back on this kind of stuff?
Um,
So,
oh, Kai, you start. Sorry.
um, so a way that they have already participated is joining our walkout. Another way they can participate is if their school doesn't already join the association. Um, and ways that they can support is the ATA has done Fridays Wear Red for Red for Ed. Um, and if there's any rallies or protests going on in the future with us, they should definitely join us. And I'll pass it on to Katie now.
We are always looking for new people to join us. Obviously, right now we're still pretty small considering we're working on reaching out. We found out there's 766 high schools in Alberta. So we have a list. We have a list. We've got a few people to talk to, but I think the most important thing for students and youth to realize is that we're not powerless and we can push the government to actually follow through on their hiring and their promises for teachers and educational assistants. And honestly, even just talking about it helps. If students understand what's going on, it's harder for the government to pretend that everything is fine.
I love that. I have a question for you because, like, this is one of the conversations that has been that us old people talk about is because I think that the leverage and the power that youth have in this province is grossly underestimated. Not only in the sense that give all y'all a couple of years, you're going to be voting, and for those of you that have been, you know, wronged in the way that many of you feel that you have, as I choose my words carefully. Um, you're going to remember 2025 for sure. But there's also another piece that I find really interesting. And that is you guys have like it's November, Christmas is coming. There's going to be some family get-togethers, and you guys have the potential to really, really impact those. Is that something that you think like? And I recognize that telling grandma or grandpa like, "Hey, do you realize that they are messing with me? They're messing with my education. They're messing with my friends. Do you realize that all of this is going on?" Yeah, we'll get to the fruitcake in a bit, but first, let's take a minute. Do you think that's something that you would encourage other youth to do if they're safe to do so? And I should probably throw that caveat in there.
But definitely, I was just going to say, like, um, there are even like a lot of people who are older than us or wiser than us who don't understand the ramifications because it doesn't really affect them. This, especially if they don't have like children in schools. If you have an uncle and aunt who don't have kids, they probably don't know what it's like to be in school right now. Um, so yeah, definitely if you're safe, speaking up is so important. And a lot of the members in the ASA right now are grade 11, grade 12. So next election, we will all be voting and we will remember all of these things that have happened. But yeah, no, definitely speaking up is even to your own family, just the more people that are educated, the more that what we're trying to do is impactful. And we know that it's hard, especially at the rally we did. We had like our total count was 10. 10 all elderly people flip us off, a group of teenagers standing outside of our school who wanted to be educated. God forbid some kids want school. We had 10 elderly people flip off us teenagers standing outside of our high school. So that was like really eye opening for all of us, really. So some people just don't understand. They just aren't educated on it. So yeah, it's definitely our responsibility to help.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify. There were more than 10 kids at the rally,
Oh yeah.
and there were 10 seniors who took the time out of their day to come and flip off the kids who were advocating for education.
Yeah, but it kind of just like encouraged us a little more. In the end, we were like, okay, like let's see how many we can get to. Um, because even like Kai and myself, we run the emails, we run the Instagrams. When people message us and they're like, you guys are destroying the youth. I'm so grateful that my kids are out of the school. I'm like, okay, that makes me want to educate you more. Like it just helps us realize that people aren't really super involved with things that don't affect them.
The other thing I will just say, for you, you probably know this already. There's a lot of fake accounts that like to send horrible things to people. You should see the DMs that we get. It's that we get a lot of really supportive ones, but then we have to get other ones, and sometimes they get reported to the police. Um, Kai, what do you have to add to what Katie said? You gonna ruin Christmas? Would you advocate for people to ruin Christmas? Should they get the gifts first and then ruin Christmas? What's the strategy here?
The strategy is definitely get gifts and then ruin Christmas. Well, not ruin Christmas, but advocate for what's right. Advocate for yourself, your education, all the other things that you can do just to spread the knowledge about your education and that it affects you directly of what's happening in classrooms instead of just, oh, the teachers want more pay.
Well, and I think it's clear with the offer. The teachers were not thrilled with the boilerplate offer that the government's been giving everybody in the public service. But their biggest concerns were the classroom conditions and the classroom complexity. And I think that one of the things that is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the things that is really important in keeping in mind in all of this is that there is a boiled frog that happens in the education system where kids come up through the education system and they see their classrooms are getting bigger and bigger, and there's that sense of like this is just normal, but that normal doesn't mean good enough. And I think that there's so many different reasons why youth can ruin Christmas after they get their gifts, and New Year's and all of the other holidays that occur at the holiday season. I think that there's lots to talk about that doesn't have to be one specific thing because there's just so much that's wrong. Um, what do you like? I had a group of students on a couple of weeks ago, and one of the questions that I did not want to ask but had to ask was, how does this make you feel about the province? And I did a poll of I think we had 15 youth that showed up for that episode, and I think three said that they were thinking about staying in the province once they finished high school. What is when you have a government that's saying to teachers, hey, we're going to invoke this nuclear option on the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and also we're going to do it on these other things. What message does that send to you, and what are you hearing from the other youth in your orbit about how they're interpreting the use of the notwithstanding clause and all of this stuff?
It's definitely like even I know it doesn't really, I've found out it doesn't really matter what your political beliefs are when it affects you so obviously. Because I live in a smaller town, we have people with more conservative views, and we have people like them, and they came to our rallies, they came to our walkouts because they see what's going on, they know that it's affecting them. And um, the strike, how teachers are treated, how like because of how the teachers are treated, it feels like our education is being put on a back burner, which shows to me a lot about the priorities of the province. And with other bills like feels against Indigenous people and against trans people, to us LGBTQ people in general. A lot of us just don't feel safe in the province anymore. So, as hard as that is, if you've lived here your whole life, for a lot of us, that does mean we have to move away so that we feel like we can go out in public and not get hurt and like yeah. So it's definitely hard, and like more youth than care to admit it are feeling unsafe, even just going outside now.
I just want to really underscore what you just said there because I think it's critically important that people hear it. Um, there are youth who are afraid to go outside because of the rhetoric and the climate that is going on in this province. That just is so heartbreaking. Um, and it is so much less than like it goes without saying, but it is so much less than what youth in this province deserve. And I'm making it very hard to make jokes. Um, Kai, what do you got? What do you got to add to that? What are you hearing?
I'm definitely not going to be staying in this province, but I will remain in Canada just because I fear the United States is worse.
Right?
Um,
Thank you for that. We got a little bit of levity in.
yeah. I feel like it sends a message to everyone that even if you're not within a political standing or view, that the government will still do things that affect you. And it's just really hurtful to the groups that they are affecting and the groups that affect that group, if that makes sense. And yeah, to add on to what Katie said, some of us aren't like, don't feel safe to go outside because of the name they're putting on us or like the way they spread misinformation on media.
Um, I love, Katie, that you brought up the fact that this hits all teachers, and that there are for sure conservative teachers who have definitely had their charter rights revoked as well. And there has certainly been an attempt at framing all teachers as being hyper progressive, or just progressive. If only that were the case. It's not, and this has stripped an entire profession of their charter rights, regardless of where they land on the political spectrum. And I think that's another thing that's really, really important to keep in mind, because it is very easy for people to sort of categorize professions and teachers as, oh, it's all the woke teacher agenda or whatever. And it's not. And so highlighting that you're from a small town and that you have lots of conservative teachers who are also having their charter rights stripped, I think is critically important. Um, where do people go to, like, you're building this organization? Where do people go to get engaged with it? I'm guessing Instagram.
Um, they can either, yeah, reach out to us on Instagram or they can text our number or email.
Okay. Do you guys got a website yet?
We're still in the development process of it.
It's like as we speak, I think our two website designers and managers are doing, ooh, they're doing the background design because they were like trying to educate me as like there's the foreground programming and the background programming, but it's happening and it's going to be so cool. So yeah, the website's coming out. We've got the email, the phone number, the social medias. So yeah.
Awesome. Um, I'm going to break my own rules here. And I'm going to put a cut in there because I have a question that I want to clarify, but I don't want to get anybody in any trouble. So this next little bit here does not have to go into the episode. And I want to be really clear about that. Use some language, Katie, that I want to provide the opportunity to clarify. And if you don't want to, if you're not comfortable, I do not want to make you uncomfortable. I do not want to put anybody's safety at risk or anything like that. But the way that you were speaking, and you are under no obligation to answer this question. You can just be like, you know what, let's just go move on. And all of this will get edited out. Um, The way that you were speaking, are both of you members of the 2S LGBTQ? Okay. Um, no, and the reason why I asked, there's a bunch of reasons why I asked that. And after if you want this cut out, like I said, 100%, we'll cut it out. All you have to say is just, yeah, no, please leave that out. But I want, regardless, one way or the other, I want the two of you to hear this. It is reprehensible what this province is doing to the 2S LGBTQ community in this province. It is appalling to me, and embarrassing and horrifying. And I could go on with like a thesaurus with the adjectives that I want to use for how outraged I am at how this government is choosing to punch down on 2S LGBTQ youth. And I'm just so sorry that this is how they're choosing to wield their power. It's gross. Um, uh, and so I wanted to make sure that that reality was acknowledged. And I wanted to also say thank you, for choosing to trust the breakdown as a platform to have this conversation. Um, so thank you for that, sincerely. And if you want all of that edited out, I will 100% take it out. If you want it left in, I will leave it in. It's entirely up to you.
Well, first of all, thank you. It like definitely means a lot to us when people say that, especially when it comes from adults, because it's like it oftentimes feels like we're on our own now, and we know we're not. But just getting reminders like that, just because like I feel like the main people in our society and our government are so very obviously against us, even just having like basic rights. And then I'm fine with keeping it in, not like it's not like a secret, guys. The closet is glass, but Kai, whatever you feel comfortable with.
I definitely want it in because I want people to see that it's not just the woke liberals, but definitely, yeah, keep it in because it's something that is, I don't want to say normalized, but it's something that's still an ongoing issue that we need to address.
And I'm gonna just throw on the end there, given your guys' permission to leave that in, which I like that I just broke all of my own rules with that little segment there. So I'm sure I'll probably get some DMs about it. But your reaction, both of your reactions, says to me that more people who fall in my demographic need to do a much better job of speaking out and calling this out for the bullshit that it is. Um, and so to my audience, get on it, because these kids need to know that they're not alone, because they're not. And I can tell both of you that I've been to a bunch of rallies. There's a whole bunch of people who are pissed off, and it's got to suck so much to be in a small town where you don't get to see that like urban centralization of power. But you please know that you're definitely not alone, and there's a lot of people who are desperate to stand beside you. Um, I want to give each of you the opportunity to say anything else it is that you want to say. Um, I'll go to Kai first, just so that we're not doing the weird mute button stuff. But I love the closet as glass. But is there anything else that you want to say? Is there anything else you want people to hear? Is there anything else you want people to know?
I've definitely seen the comments and like DMs about us being ran by teachers and the walkout being run by teachers, which I definitely want to say that we were not led on by teachers, that we're the ones who did this. Um, and that the teachers aren't using us as little
The
chess pieces.
pawns.
Yeah. And that there's no teacher involvement in this whatsoever because they're not even allowed to talk about it.
Well, I mean, it's a great point. And I go back to the live show that we did in Calgary a couple of weekends ago, and we had a bunch of teachers there. One of them was on stage, and she was like, "I'm lucky if I can get my students to do homework. You think that I'm going to be able to get them to organize civil unrest? Come on." Katie, what do you want people to hear?
Um, I first want people to know that even if you like don't think that people are with you, people are with you. And I think it kind of shows like Kai and I as kind of public figures for the ASA and stuff. We don't really care what people think and like how the backlash we get. But if like the two of us, it makes us feel like affirmed and cared about when people say it. Imagine how people who do really take all of those comments to heart feel. So, for everyone who has stuck up for trans youth, for students in general, thank you. And please reach out if you have any questions for either of us. And then, like Kai said, before you send us some hate, just remember these are the faces behind the emails that you're getting. When you tell us some pretty graphic things, just remember who's receiving them.
You both are so amazing, and you're both so brave, and you are an absolute inspiration. And I will leave it at that because otherwise I'm going to end up getting all the feels and make a fool of myself. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat tonight and doing what you do. I look forward to following the Albertan Students Association, and please keep me in the breakdown in the loop for what you guys are doing in the future. Would love to have a follow-up conversation because until the grandparents and the parents start getting pissed off at this government, they're not going to stop until we have an election. So um, I, it makes me sad to say that I think we will have the opportunities for follow-up conversations, but I think we will have the opportunities for follow-up conversations. Both of you are welcome on the show anytime.
Thank you so much for having us. It means a lot to both of us.
And that's it for another episode of The Breakdown. As always, if you appreciate the kind of content that we're trying to produce here, we would love nothing more than if you thought about signing up to be one of our Patreon sponsors at www.patreon.com/thebreakdownab, where for just the price of a fancy cup of coffee a month, you can help us continue to produce this kind of content. Whether you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, in which case, maybe leave a review and a rating, or whether you're watching it on one of our streaming platforms, we want to say a big thank you to everybody who is part of the Breakdown's audience. And as always, take care of each other and keep the conversation going.